Hey guys, so this is a different kind of video than I normally make. It's more of like a podcast, and I just want to make it with a couple buddies of mine. And so if you want to watch this, it's good to just have on in the background while you're doing something else or have going on. I'm not going to have any video playing, but I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm Dookey Lukey, and this is Vox and Cammy, and they're both YouTubers, and they have pretty cool channels, so you should check those out. It's in the description. And today we are talking about video games, just in general, what draws us into them, what certain games we really have enjoyed, and what makes them long-term playable, and what other aspects we love. So, yeah, how you guys doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Yeah, I can't complain. Doing real nice. What about you, Fox?
I am doing well. Thank you for asking.
Oh, good to, good to hear. All right, so starting off, I was hoping Vox just bring up Pokemon right away. I think that was probably the first one for a lot of us that really, at least for me, was the
especially
first game.
with Sun and Moon coming out.
Yeah. Oh, are you on that?
No, I have not bought that yet. I actually was in Charlotte last week and I came home and my sister was playing I think it was Moon. So I was like, "Oh yeah, forgot those had been released." But
Yeah, I value my college career, so I haven't got them yet.
Probably a good
um
decision.
no, Pokemon was actually the very first video game I bought for myself. I was not a spoiled child in that sense. My parents didn't buy me games and consoles and whatnot, so I saved up my own money when I was like 9 or 10 years old and bought a Game Boy and Pokemon. So was indeed my earliest foray into video gaming.
Oh,
Money
man.
well spent.
Yeah,
Oh
definitely.
yeah, absolutely, money well spent.
I remember getting Pokemon Red version and a Game Boy Color for my birthday one year. It was probably around that same time, and oh my gosh. Because I'd like played it at my friend's house. He like first introduced me to Pokemon on like one of the Game Boy Pockets before they had color. I was playing that there. I'm like, this is probably the greatest thing I've ever experienced in my life. And then
Well,
that took up a
the
lot of my
reason I
time.
ended up buying one was because I hadn't really gotten into the Pokemon phenomenon
Hmm.
like a lot of my friends had, because like I said, my parents didn't buy me that sort of thing, so I wasn't ingrained, I wasn't involved into it. But my friend let me play his game over the weekend one time, and of course he didn't tell me and I didn't know, and this is just horrendous looking back in retrospect. I started a new save file, of course, because I didn't know anything better. And back on those games, you only had one save file, so I deleted his, and he was very mad at me. And at that point, after I apologized and was like, "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry," then I was just sitting there thinking, I need to get one of these for myself.
Probably
And
like you could lose friends over that. That's
oh yeah, absolutely. But
Yep.
he's still
That
pretty.
and Mario Party. Like, big two.
Yeah.
oh, or Super Smash Bros. Back in the day when you had to unlock all the characters and then boop.
Oh god.
But so, what about Pokemon was it that kind of like drew you in the first place?
Well, I mean, originally, like I said, it was peer pressure in a sense. All my friends are playing it. I want to play it too.
Yeah,
That's the greatest marketing tool. Is word of mouth, obviously, from people you know and trust. So, I mean, at that point, it was just like, oh my goodness, this is so cool. I've never played a video game before, and this is so awesome. And like it was definitely fun because Pokemon's an RPG at its heart. It's
Mm-hmm.
meant to have, especially for someone who was 9 years old like I was, it's meant to have a very long lifespan, I guess. Like it's not meant to be something you can beat in a matter of days.
hmm
So it was definitely, like Cammy said, it took over your life, and it's just like, oh well, I have 10 minutes of free time. Let me pull my Game Boy out and let's see what I can do in that 10 minutes. So.
So did every game after Pokemon just not live up to the hype?
Ah,
Since that was your first own video game?
there are very few games over my life that have had the same level of hype when I bought them, but there've certainly been games that I've enjoyed as much, if not more, for various reasons. But Yeah, I mean, nothing ever competes with that first game that you save up and buy for yourself. And to a 9-year-old kid, uh, $120, that's a lot of money. So,
How did you even
Yeah, it's
save
a
up that
lot of
much money?
yards.
Yeah.
a lot of chores, birthday money, Christmas money. I mean, it took me the better part of a year to save that. So,
Yeah, when you're that
go
young, it's
figure.
like impossible to make money. One thing
Yep.
I did love about Pokemon too, especially when I first started playing, was kind of like at that time the internet was not that big. Like that was not really a thing in most people's households, from what I can remember myself. And so when you're stuck on a game, it wasn't like, let me go on YouTube and try and figure out how to get past this. It's like, it's an adventure that you're going through yourself. And it was so much more rewarding at the same time. I remember the first time, what is that cave that you go into and you need flash to be able to get through it? I had no idea how to get that HM, and I was just like in there navigating my whole way through it without flash. And it was one of the most brutal experiences in gaming for me. But it was also so much more rewarding that I didn't like look it up and just figure out how to get it done.
Well, if I'm gonna be allowed to display my total nerd cred
Oh
here, in the
no.
original games, that was Rock Tunnel,
Yeah.
is what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I played through Yellow version, I didn't know where Flash was. I didn't know where to get all the different items, etc.
You need
So,
flash for that cave? I'm
well, I
just
mean,
hearing about this.
I did what Luke did. I just basically,
Hug the wall.
I went down the wall and you could hear the little ding, ding, ding as you ran into something, and then when that noise stopped, you knew you were making progress.
That was actually pretty on point with that
That's
sound.
that's how we got through it as 9, 10-year-old kids. And that's telling in and of itself that children are willing, if they're invested in something, they will put in the time and the effort to solve the problem themselves instead of running off and having an
Yep.
adult solve it, or like Luke said, look up on the internet.
I was gonna say when I was a kid, I didn't buy repels as much as I do now. Now I'm like, please don't, throw me a trash Pokemon.
Yeah. It gets so infuriating when you're just like trying to make it to a point and then like you hit like
Hmm.
three things in one patch of grass.
Oh yeah, I'm sure everybody here had absolute utter hatred of Zubats. So, um, my God.
So Cammy, what was the first
Yes.
game for you that was like, oh damn, like I love video games.
Well, Pokemon was a good one, but
Mhm.
I kind of want to jump into MMOs since we're talking about replayability.
Oh yeah.
And for me, that one's simple, RuneScape.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you guys played it much, but I'll describe it really quickly. It's a simple Java-based game where you level up your skills, fight monsters, and do quests. And throughout these quests, there's just terrible dry humor that like maybe is funny as a kid, but now as an adult, it's funny to me because of how not funny it is. And within the game, it has its own economy, and then it has a luck-based combat system. But you can have a lot of different builds with your skills and armor and stuff to kind of manipulate that luck. And after you memorize all these different timers, there's kind of a beautiful skill to getting good at the PvP. So it's not just saying, "Oh, I hit a big number, I got lucky." It's I switched all this gear to make my probability higher and so forth. So you
Hmm.
could do a lot of different things. Now, for the economy part, it was very, I'm not going to say loot based, but when you got that drop that you were trying to get, it was the best feeling ever.
Oh man. Actually, I can really relate to you on that. Oh, I didn't play I didn't play RuneScape, but the game that I played was called Endless Online, and it was a little. I can almost guarantee nobody who watches this will know it. Actually, my brother watches this, so he knows what's up. But it's a little like 2D anime, not a side scroller. It was a bird's eye view map, different maps and stuff. It was an MMORPG, and it was awesome. And it was the first one I found. It's when I didn't know crap about
Like
games.
Adventure Quest?
Kind of like Adventure Quest, but you can like move around the whole map. Like there's like each
Oh, okay.
each map is basically like a big grid, like a chessboard, but like bigger. And there's like little like huts in it and stuff that you can go inside of. And inside the hut, it's even bigger than like it takes up on that like area. And then like you have to like load different parts of the map as you go. But what really got me was like because I was just like looking up a game to play that's free. And I found this, and you start off by like you're like naked or not naked. You got like your underwear on, and you're like bopping goats on the head with your hand, and you have to like kill a certain amount of them to get goat's horns. And then with the goat's horns, you make a small, you can make a dagger. And then with a dagger, it increases your hit percentage and like a little bit more damage. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is kind of sweet. And then I remember just like getting like basic stuff from people, like the crappiest gear. But I'm like, oh, this is, I've got like, I'm just balling out now. And then like as I played more and more, you like learn about the community. The community was a big part for me, even though it was a bunch of like scammers and stuff like that, which is kind of
It made you a smarter person in the long run.
I think literally anyone who's played an MMORPG has gotten scammed, and then you're like, all right, now I know never trust mankind.
Yeah, for RuneScape, that's called the Wilderness, where you can player kill, and of course, someone's like, "Hey, come here, I got some gold in the wilderness." And of course, being a little kid, you wander in there like, "Oh, free gold,
sweet." Yeah, this guy wouldn't lie to me. Yeah, well, it teaches you about real life real quick. I remember the first time I got scammed, the person's like, "Oh, I got this gold hack. You just have to give me your account information." I'm like, freaking awesome, man. Like, come back, all my stuff's gone. I'm like,
"Hey, Mom, what's a social security number?"
Yeah, but I'm sure anyone who's had like online gaming experience had that. And this is really the first experience I had with online gaming. And the economy, like you were saying, it was just like awesome. So like there's drops in it too from different monsters, and there's pretty rare ones. And then you see people with like when there was different patches and different versions of the game. So it came out and they'd expanded a little bit each time. And then so there'd be new items that came out. And for the start of that patch or the start of that version, those items were insanely valuable. So if you're a high level and can get those right away, you get something that's worth like millions at first, but then it drops. It just falls off so fast because once another one drops, oh, bam, its value is decreased by half. But,
holiday events.
They had the Christmas one, and so it turned the map into like snowy stuff. Oh, it was.
Was the game very grindy?
Yes and no. It depends on how you wanted to play it. So if you wanted to be a high level, there was no level cap with it too. And grinding out your level was really difficult. It took a lot of work, but it was like, I don't know. I never really focused that much on it. You could play it and you could grind it out and get like really beast, but it exponentially, like any other game, got harder and harder and harder. And it was a tough one to grind out. And it's just like you hold control to attack, and that was about the level of fight. Like the PvP was basically non-existent. And even fighting other stuff was very grindy if you were going in that way. But the economy was really interesting to me. And then like once I figured it out, it was really fun to like buy and sell stuff at different levels. Like, oh, this thing's worth like 1.2 million. So I'm going to buy it for anywhere on this end of the market. And will sell the ones that I have on this side. And, just stuff like that. It was really just something else. And I think it's just like, because it was so simple, it was so good.
I got you.
Sound very simple with all that math and economic bartering and stuff. I didn't didn't play MMOs, but I don't know if to a little kid that's the most appealing thing in the world. So
well, I mean, like I said, how you want to play it. Since I got into the economy later on, that is how I played it when I got a little older. But when I was younger, like in 8th grade or something, I was just kind of playing it for the heck of it and talking to people and playing. There's like a little tic-tac-toe arena and stuff like that.
Did you guys see that episode of South Park with the World of Warcraft?
Yes.
Oh, of course. That's like pop culture.
I'm making sure, because I'm going to make a reference to that. You know how they train to like max level in the cow pen?
Mm-hmm.
There was a novelty account on RuneScape that I made to where that was actually how you had to train that account to max skills. So you would train your attack and your defense, but not your strength. And strength determines how much you hit. So it helps you level up really quickly. And I just skipped out on that stat altogether to go to the duel arena and piss people off. So I had to be in the cow pen for like 500 hours. It was bullshit.
Oh, man.
I'm pretty
sure. It wasn't 500, exaggerating, but
I think in some of the more recent World of Warcraft expansions, they actually have to like cap the XP you can gain in the starting area, so you can't just become all powerful with no risk to yourself or something. I think I remember hearing about that, because basically what people were doing was like in an area that was created for new players with new accounts, they would just sit there in hardcore. I don't know if they used like a bot or something, but they would grind their stat levels up or their skills, or I'm making myself look as ignorant as I feel, but basically they were just over leveling their characters in the very starting area, and then they'd go to the first area where they could interact with other players, and they would just murk them, and it was hazing kind of to the extreme. So
I got you.
the developers had to make it so that the level cap in the starting, you at a certain point you couldn't gain any more experience even if you were completing tasks that would otherwise get you that XP.
To just prevent that boosting kind of mentality.
Okay, that makes sense.
I mean, but that's the major thing is in a single player experience, you can do whatever you want. You can play the game the way you want, and it doesn't matter. But as soon as you introduce other human players into the arena, even if your actions are well intentioned, even if oh, this is really fun, you're still affecting or you're still influencing someone else's experience, and that's where we start to get into issues. So
I mean, when other people are involved, you kind of got to be creative to beat them at their own game, Like with that novelty account I made, it was hilarious because in the duel arena, you both put up loot that you're going to challenge each other for, and winner takes the pot. So what you do is I'd be dueling them. They would hit zeros on me, and I would hit a 1 on them, and they have 99 health. So I would just slowly whittle them down, and it would take maybe 15 minutes of dueling, and they would just lose like that. I can't imagine what it'd be like on the other end of that.
That'd be so tilting.
well, I mean, you were having fun doing it, right?
Yeah, I was cracking up the whole time. I was like, oh my gosh, all those hours in the cow pen is finally paying off.
Well, I mean, I don't want to drag this into something completely away from the point of our conversation, but do you think that at that kind of level, if you're a player in a game that has that ability to do what you did with the cow pen, do you go into the game sort of accepting that people may try to be, mean to you, people may try to scam you? Is that just something you have to accept as a risk, or is it their fault for taking advantage of you? Like,
you definitely accept that you can possibly be scammed in the game. And I guess one thing I learned in MMOs is if there's a possibility to do something, someone's probably already doing it. Even if it sounds stupid and it's barely an advantage, like people will do it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So Vox, when it comes to Halo, that was a pretty big one for you, right?
Halo was kind of off limits until I think I was, I don't remember the first time I played it. But I mean, first of all, it was a game on a console I didn't own. I had a PS2, so I didn't have an Xbox. And secondly, it was a mature. Well, okay, fine, whatever. Like I said, when you're the one saving the money for these things, you can't just go pick and choose everything you want. But no, Halo, because it was rated mature. I mean, when I'm 13 years old, that's a no-no. Mom says no.
Yeah.
And she's not against me playing it at my friend's house. Like if your friend has it, fine, you can play it. You're not bringing it into our house. So I don't think I actually owned Halo until I was 16 or 7. I think it must have been 17 because
and it must have been Halo 2 or 3 at that point then.
Well, I remember when I bought my 360, I ended up buying, I think I bought mine in like February 2008. It was after COD 4 came out because COD 4 was what I bought the night I got the console.
Mm-hmm. So you had Halo 3.
That was...
I wanted to say big mistake, but COD 4 was really enjoyable, so I can't.
It was.
I mean, at that point in gaming's kingdom, like in gaming fandom, COD 4 was something that hadn't been seen before.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So it was definitely looked upon more favorably then. But yeah, before, I mean, that kind of makes a good landmark point. Before Call of Duty 4 came out, we played Call of Duty 2 a little bit, and it was like, oh, this is cool, like World War II historical, yeah, that's awesome. But the big game for our group of friends was definitely Halo. That was the multiplayer game, that was what you went to friends' houses and played split screen on until 6 in the morning.
Yeah, and that was the game where it's like, if you're good at this, you got like you have like street rep.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
It's like, you got a 50? No? Okay.
Okay, well, when we were in middle school, we didn't know about ranking and all that sort of thing. We weren't that hardcore into it like some people may have been. So
I was not hardcore until I never even got a 50. Ugh, I got a 49. I don't even want to talk about it.
hey, if it makes you feel any better, I was capped out at like 40. So
Yeah,
You know,
kids
I
couldn't
would-
sit at my lunch table without a 50. I didn't have a 50. I probably had a 30.
well, whatever. No, mine was in Lone Wolves, so I always had the
So you're just
had
a
the-
gypsy.
I had the self pride that I had done it myself, and then of course you had everybody saying, "Oh, Lone Wolves takes no effort," because half the
AR
people in that
beatdown.
playlist have no thumbs. It's like, you're just ruining everything. That's kind of when it started to get to the point where I was like, okay, I can't take anything anyone else says at face value. Like, I just have to ignore what other people say about me
Yeah.
and enjoy it for what I enjoy it.
Yeah.
What
do
Why
you
do you always
enjoy it
body
for?
shot? Why do you body shot, Fox? Why do you do that?
Back in Halo, I didn't body shot, and looking back now, that was a mistake. I always tried to aim for the head because I thought that's what you're supposed to do.
Once their shields are down, that is correct.
Well, yeah, but
Until then, it makes not a lick of difference. Unless you got
I
the
know.
sniper. I mean, come on.
and I'm sure my friends definitely were taking advantage of the fact that I hadn't been playing Halo, but without them. So I'm sure I definitely was somebody that got taken advantage of with like, oh, where does this weapon spawn? I don't know, John. Where is it? Like, but that's kind of the way things happen, and I don't know if I can really say jokes on them, but I'm the only one out of that friends group that still plays what I would consider a hardcore amount of video games. So
Mm-hmm.
So,
what about-
did you guys try to system link? Sorry to cut you off.
No. That's actually a really good point.
Well, one of my really good friends from middle school through high school, his parents had built their own house, and in our neck of the woods, like, they were the destination for all of our friends. And so they had a giant 70-inch TV, and we would play 4-player split screen on one console, was usually what we would do. So I didn't get introduced to System Link until COD 4 came out, because that was when we started. It's like, okay, we can't be screen looking here, because in Call of Duty you die in half a second. So
Yeah.
it's
And I
that's
had grenade launcher.
that's when you start, well, yeah, but that's when we started, like, okay, you two are in this room with that TV, we're over here in this room with this TV, and that's kind of how it started up there.
We had to have system link for it to be fair. In our neighborhood, it was like a lot of trash talk between my friends and his older brother and his friend. And so what we do is we'd put all the older kids, which was like 2 or 3 of them, on one team, and then we'd have like a 2v6 with them versus the little kids. Pretty funny.
That actually really transitions well into what I was going to, just like a point I wanted to make. So with the system link and like Halo, so I had in here like Forge mode as well was like something it wasn't unique actually. Like I remember Time Splitters 2 actually had a Forge mode that was actually quite great. But Halo was just a bigger game, and having Forge mode in it, I remember, was just like insane. And the first Forge mode, it wasn't as intuitive as it is now. It took a lot more to like set it up. But I remember spending hours on hours setting up maps for a zombie game type that I made. And it was like zombies move insanely fast, low gravity, and everyone else is like normal gravity and stuff. But zombies are like one hit kill to the head. And so
Okay.
it's just a fun game type. And each one kind of like bottlenecks the zombies into you. But once like one person dies, and it just like snowball effect. But my brother's coming home for Thanksgiving and tonight actually to get back from college, and we're gonna have a LAN party playing Halo 3. And at my house, what we do is we have upstairs, we have the ping pong table set up, and everyone brings their monitors and their Xboxes and sets up there. And we have a router upstairs, and then we connect a 100-foot Ethernet cable from there, route it out the window, go into our garage where we have couches and like 3-4 TVs down there and other Xbox 360s. and then we connect them all together, and everyone brings like a controller, an Xbox, or Halo, or anything that they can get, and then we just like game it out for hours, and we get like
That
anywhere from
sounds
like
awesome.
10 to 16 people, more or less. Like, oh, it's so much fun. I mean, it's still what we do. Like, Halo 3's been out for how many years? Like 10 years at least?
2007, so
Almost
almost
10
10
years.
years.
And
That makes me so sad to know that Destiny doesn't have LAN right now, because I would totally be doing that.
oh, it's just like such a good like party game, and even though it's like that old, it still carries enough weight where everyone is still willing to play it, and it's fun. Like you're talking about like in the neighborhood and stuff like that, with people playing together, and how it's kind of like a prestige, and you have a different group of friends. Like in my neighborhood, it was a big deal. Like all of my friend group, we are like there's a
It was
bunch of
street
people.
cred, like you said. It was street cred.
It's insane though. Like everyone played Halo 3, and our neighborhood was all like really good at gaming. It was like me, my cousin, my brother-in-law is really good at gaming. My brother is good at gaming. You guys know Barney, he was really good, and like our friends too. Like we just had like a crew of people just from our neighborhood that we just like we took it pretty seriously. But man, Halo was the competitive game. But not just because it was the game that everyone was playing, but it was also just like a well-made game where you don't just like one-shot someone all the time. If you're one-shotting someone, it's because you got a power weapon and you were smart about controlling the map, and you could work well as a team. Like if you're getting to a higher level, you have to team shoot people. You have to have like really good map awareness, call outs, and everything like that. And when Call of Duty came around, I remember COD 4 came out, and I was kind of like the first one of our friends who was like, this game's actually super fun, guys. Like it was kind of like, don't say I enjoy this game.
Yeah,
everyone's
I
so
know that.
diehard
Yeah, there was
about it.
definitely that sort of unspoken rule. It's like, this
The
is
stigma.
fun, but it's not Halo. Like you didn't ever make that comparison, because
Yeah.
that's a line you don't cross.
Yeah, but I loved it. Like I started playing it because I got it for Christmas, and I was like, I in between like playing Halo, I was like, well, I'll try this game out. I remember playing the online. Yeah, like Cammy was saying, the noob tube. Right out the gates, I was like, hey, I can get some kills. This thing's kind of sick. And then like developing from there, I was like, it was the game I played when I was kind of playing by myself. Because Halo, I was a little rage bot when I was younger, and when you start getting mad, you start playing bad. Like so, I remember just like screaming at my brother when we were playing. Oh, and then he just sits there like shaking. I'm like, oh, went way too hard.
And that's the story of how Jackson needed therapy.
That's how I got him good at video games. No, he was already good. We could have been so good together, and I was just such a spaz at like young teens. And being
Oh yeah,
6
for
years
sure.
younger.
I mean, I was definitely not anywhere near the highest level player in my group of friends. I was very, very average.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've talked about this with Cam before, so I'll ask you now, Luke. Like, because you had, like you said, the neighborhood full of people that were good. I don't know if you guys had this sort of stigma where, like, when I was in high school, if somebody said, "Oh, I'm really good at playing," insert the name of whatever game here, then you knew they weren't.
Yeah.
Like if they were the ones saying they were good at it, they probably weren't very good at it.
Yeah.
And even for someone like me who was not the greatest player in the school, I still didn't feel like that's something to, like, you just don't brag about that.
Yeah, you let your gameplay speak for itself. It's actually really funny because like whenever someone's like, oh yeah, actually, like I remember adding a bunch of friends from school on Xbox Live, and always being like so hopeful because of how they talked. Like, dude, I slay it online.
Me too.
I'm like, yes, someone else who plays a lot of video games. I'm like, dude, you're only like, you're not even second prestige. Like, you haven't put in any time in this game. Like when it came to COD, like, dude, I play quite a bit, and they have like a 1.1 KD. I was like, oh, I thought you said you were slaying it, not like scraping by. And yeah, no, it's just that letdown.
Well, if we're looking at COD 4, I'm pretty sure I had a 1.1. So what you gonna say about that, Luke?
My KD back then was pretty bad too. It improved over the years and then kind of dropped back down.
Yeah. No, I think that when it comes to playing with your friends, it's okay to sort of set up a hierarchy within your group. Like, you know who the best player in the group is.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows it. You don't have to say it because you play with them night in and night out. But when you start comparing yourself to people that aren't in your typical group of friends, that's when you sort of, I feel like you really have to temper your expectations. Because like Cam said, or Luke or somebody a minute ago, you know, you go and you add somebody at school and they're like, oh yeah, I'm really good. And in the back of your head, you're just thinking, no, you're probably not. Like, you don't want to get too excited over that.
And then when it comes to that, it's like you can only meet so many people that are actually like at a top skill level that live near you. Just like statistically speaking, that's just the case.
There's a reason top 1% is 1%.
Yeah,
because there are very few people who
are. And it's pretty funny because that's actually like a little side story here. That's how I ended up meeting Vox. Was me and my group of friends. So me, Matt, and Barney, or a couple guys we played with. We played a lot together, and I was gone at camp, so they're playing, and I come back, and then there's these two new guys that we're playing with that I had never met before, that don't live in the area, live out in who knows middle of the states where nobody else goes, and it's like it's Vox Morris and Ice 9. And I was like, who are these guys? But they're like, dude, these guys are top notch. So it was really it was really funny. And that's how I met Vox. It was what, Black Ops 2? I think.
No, well, I don't remember when I met you, but Barney, it was Modern Warfare 3.
Oh, actually, that was it. Yeah, Modern Warfare.
I wasn't actually in the initial game. Ice and one of Ice and one of his. Well, I'd met Ice back in 2010.
Yeah.
I've been playing with some guys from Louisiana, and Ice just ended up getting in the party because he like knew one of those guys, and then I was actually really afraid of Ice because I was like, oh my god, this guy is possibly the greatest COD player I've ever met. Like,
yeah,
you know, he played free for all the time by himself, and he has like a 10 win loss and a 4.5 KD ratio. I'm like, oh my god, like this guy doesn't lose, and I was terrified to play with him. But eventually we started playing together, you know, night in and night out. And one night when I was doing homework, or no, I wouldn't have been doing homework because I would have graduated high school at that point. I was doing something and I wasn't playing. And anyway, Ice, when I got on, he was like, oh, I met these guys. And he'd run into Barney and Matt in the 2v2 face-off or whatever that playlist was called. And he was like, Vox, you should really play with these guys. And that's when I started playing with Barney and Matt. And then in Black Ops 2, like you said, I sort of met the rest of your group, which was you and your brother and
Daner.
I don't think I met Daner.
Was Daner not playing at that point?
But
I think his Xbox might have been broken or something. Who knows?
Something.
Anyway,
Here's something I just thought of though.
Yeah.
Is nowadays you can just stat people and instantly like look at what they use and say, all right, he's good, he's bad, just on your knowledge of the game. Back then there wasn't such an easy way to do that. You kind of had to take their word for it until you played with them or against them to kind of assess.
Yeah, I was actually just about to say that basically the way you met people back then was, okay, these guys, it was either, okay, these guys just kicked my ass, or hold on, we're not kicking their ass. And so then you immediately realize, like, okay, there's some common ground here as far as your skill level, and that's when you send each other a message after the game like, oh, you guys are really good, we should team up, and yada,
even
yada.
better, it had lobby chat back in the day where it was just open lobby at the end of the game. You got the trash talk or compliment people on what they were doing. Like if there was someone out of map or something, you're like, what the fuck are you doing?
Oh yeah, that was Barney to the T. Like he just trash talked anyone and everyone.
Yeah, and that voice became his channel for his YouTube channel. Oh, let's check it there. Like, and it was the most tilting thing if you're on the other team to just hear this guy talking like a crazy person and just like, oh, you're gonna beat you. Just like every game, like our whole group would do that though. We'd enter into a lobby and just it was Call of Duty psychological warfare is what we were playing.
I really do miss. I don't miss like the lobby chat.
I do
talking to people. I don't really miss that because I never really got into it the way he did, but I definitely miss the death cam chat where if you kill somebody, you can hear them like raging.
Oh, for like a second. Oh, that was funny.
Yeah. And then you always, like, whenever I died, you just go like, so then you know they're going to be hearing that in their ear. It's your like little way to get back at them. You hear like a little snippet of that. If you're like if you're thinking while you die, you just like say a message to them, stop camping. You gotta throw it in
Okay,
there.
so I'm gonna ask you a question, Cam, and Luke, you can jump in on this as well, I guess.
Yeah,
I'm hijacking the host
go for
of
it.
the show for a moment.
Ask the question.
At what point did you start taking the games that you played seriously enough that you wanted to, like, at what point did you go from, okay, I'm having fun, to I absolutely want to win because I'm better than the other person? Or have you ever gotten to that point where you just
Oh yeah.
In person, that was with Halo, Shadowrun, and Smash Bros. And that was just between the people in my neighborhood. And the idea was maybe one week I was the good person, but then that would piss my friend off, and he would just go insane beast mode and then be slightly better than me the next week. And that would be me to cause another jump in skill for me, and that would just rinse and repeat until eventually we were like, we're pretty good now.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you definitely push your friends to get better, and they inspire you to do the same, usually through such methods as making you feel bad, and then you get mad about it. So
Exactly. I remember Halo 3 was definitely that for me. With like I was talking about with our neighborhood, I was definitely not the best player. I was by far not the worst, but like I was. It was there was a group of 4 that played together. It was like Daner, Izzy, Barney, and like uh, one of their other friends too would play 4s in Halo with them, and I'm like, I gotta get you good, or else I'm not gonna be able to play. And it was just funny to see how, because like we all talked so much trash to each other when we played, and we'd play like one-on-ones and stuff like that. And I used to get so nervous when I played. I would just like play bad because I'm like, I gotta win, and I just like fumble. But I think that like competition between us to be like, no, I'm the best, no, I'm the best, was what made us all like good gamers.
And you got to remember, back then you couldn't just look up guides on stuff. There's not infinity YouTube videos on things to do in FPSs. So when we figured something out, we kept that shit to ourselves until someone in our group was just asking, like, why are you throwing grenades at your feet? And that's to jump a little bit higher.
Yeah. Fluxy and Furion. I remember that was like the first people I watched that made a montage, and their Halo montages were insane. Super well edited. And it was like, I didn't know anything about YouTube, but I was like, these guys have videos on here. It's so cool. I don't know if you guys ever watched them, but dang. Like,
Old
I
YouTube's
may
funny.
have, I don't know, I don't recognize those names off the top of my head, but I've probably watched some of their work at some point and just not realized it.
That's how I learned about like bounce shots with the sniper. Like you could ricochet it off the ground and stuff. I was like, oh my gosh, these guys are insane.
I mean, yeah, there's definitely a point where, you know, like, because when you're a kid, if somebody that you, for whatever reason, if you think somebody is better than you or knows something, if they tell you, like, this is how you do it, you take them at face value and they're like, okay, that's how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if they were somebody who would beat you at playing a game. It's like, okay, they know what they're doing. I better listen to what they say.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was one thing that I know as a kid, it was very hard to get around. Like I wouldn't want to not believe what somebody who was better than me in my mind was telling me. But then, you know, like we've been alluding to this whole time, as you get older, as you realize, okay, I'm actually really, really good at this, and my friends maybe aren't so great at it for whatever reason, they don't put in the time, whatever. That's when you start, okay, so how do you do that? Oh, well, you know, I do this, and then you're just like, uh-huh. And you don't really believe them so much anymore because
you think they're trying to be deceptive. Yes.
Yeah.
You're like, you're not omnipotent. You don't know everything about this game.
I mean, it's good to have different perspectives from other people and see how they approach the situation or whatever. But at some point, I think all 3 of us realize, like, well, I can't really learn anything more from my high school buddies that I play with because at some point we've surpassed them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's not really, I mean, that's not trying to be a knock on like my high school buddies.
Mm-mm.
They definitely taught me how to play the games. It's just at the end of the day, I was putting in more time and effort and they'd kind of gone off to do other things.
Mm-hmm.
So
Did you think games were balanced when you were younger, or did you like realize that there was imbalance? I'll give you an example if you're like not understanding what I'm asking.
I never played GoldenEye, so I never had to deal with that jackass who picked Odd Job.
That
So
wasn't my example, but that's a great example.
no,
In Smash Brothers, though, I thought like every character was equal, so we each picked like a character to main to get good with.
all right. So
And my
who
friend
picked
picked
Meta Knight?
no, my friend picked Fox. Meta Knight came in the later series, but in Melee, Fox was so much better than other characters. And I picked Ness, and Ness was garbage.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize if I was beating him like with Ness when he was Fox, and then he got better than me with Fox and Ness and something. Had I switched to Fox, I would have been fucking destroying him all that time ago. So I received all that trash talk and stuff, and I could have just switched characters. Didn't even think about it then.
Well, no, that's again, that's like the little. I feel so dumb saying like the little kid mentality, but that's just you're almost innocent to a point where you're just like I'm gonna beat you with the character I pick, and you're focused
Yep.
on that. You don't think about the fact that okay, maybe this character is just terrible compared to the one they're using. No, I mean,
I
I
would
think
lose sleep at night. I was like, why am I losing?
I think you. I don't know if I ever lost sleep at night. I think as a kid,
Be real, you have.
you know, when I would play Time Splitters or whatever, like you definitely realize, okay, certain weapons are better than other weapons.
Yeah.
But I never, I don't remember feeling like, oh, that's unbalanced, right? It's just like, okay, that's the good weapon. That's the one I need to get when the game starts. You didn't ever think like there was no anger towards your friends or opponents. Like, oh, you're just being cheap using the best thing. It's like, no, okay, that's the best thing. I need to be the one who has it.
Speak for
Did you have
yourself.
like a role on your team? Like, whenever you played with friends, did they save a weapon for you or something for you to use because you were better with it?
Oh God, no, no. When we played
No.
Halo, I was the guy who was only playing with them because we were friends at school. I was the one that was like, okay, John, you just don't die. Like that's your job.
Sit in the corner with a shotgun. Go.
Yeah, right.
That's funny. Actually, to go off of that, Call of Duty MW3. This is when I was in college, and we actually took it seriously. So me and like the group of friends I was talking about went pretty hard with that, and we wanted to like we got good at sabotage, like the game type, like ridiculously good, and we would play it so calculated that we had it organized. So sabotage is the neutral bomb. There's a site on each side, and you have to try and pick up the bomb and plant it on the enemy side. Once it blows up, game over. So you could win games in like a minute. And
Or you could be like most people and just try to be dicks and
And just-
spawn trap for
exactly.
12 minutes.
but we were going for a win streak, and we wanted to see how many people we could just crush. And that's when we had like that was lobby dominance before like the 2v2, 3v3 game types came out. There was that, and that because like when those came out, you could have like your three best players and just like destroy people, and it was like unfair. But in this, we would play, and I remember like we had it calculated. Barney runs down the middle. He's going to pick up the bomb. Everyone throws smokes at different angles so that we have like a clear path to go. Everyone had marathon, like we would just like sprint in and just like clear the team, boom, plant, game over. And I remember
Esports now.
yeah. But we just like came up with a strategy on our own, and everyone had like was a little like cog in the machine that we were running. And I remember like we wouldn't play unless all of us were online. And then it got to a point we got like a 216 game win streak, legit playing like no dashboarding or anything like that, of just going straight into games. And we joined in some games where it's like the enemy team was like planting the bomb, and we are just like, oh crap, had to defuse it and run. And like when we finally lost, it was kind of like a relief because we had just been like so engaged up until that point where like we have to try so hard every game. But it was it was so fun.
I definitely get that part of it. You definitely can get to a point where you feel like winning is more important than winning. If like, does that make any sense? Like, it's more important that
No,
you
that makes
win.
a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Someone still needs to end my skirmish streak in Destiny if anyone's listening.
I will do that for you tonight if you want to get on. I will purposely run at the opponents and just let them kill me. But I don't know if I ever got to a 216 win streak, but I definitely remember feeling like I don't want to lose because we haven't lost in a while.
That And that was like the most brutal thing, because then the game doesn't become fun. It's like I can't play unless I know I'm going to be like winning. So we just like wouldn't play. It was a blast though, having that lobby dominance. I remember going in and there's like people in the top like 100 of this game type. And this is when tons of people still play COD, but being in the top 100 was nuts. Like you've played a crap ton. And we played against this like group that was in the, like, multiple of them were in the top 100 or top 1,000 and like stuff like that. And we're like, oh my gosh. And just like the trash talk beforehand that we were doing, we were just like, you're gonna lose, blah, blah, blah. And they're just like, they didn't even say anything. And then we play them and just like stomp them. And it was like, whoa! And we are just like rubbing it in. And they played us like 5 games in a row. And these are like some of the best people in this. And we just like steamrolled them game after game. And it was just like, oh, it was so bad for our egos.
Well, it's because their method of winning was not aiming to win.
It was
Their
just
method of
spawn
winning
camping.
was to, like.
But then they tried playing against us to win because we were just like such little turds that we were like, "Wah!" And we still spacked them.
Well, yeah, I mean that's just practice. They don't practice that sort of gameplay on a nightly basis. They're not going to be very good at it. So it's yeah. No, I mean I think every group of friends is definitely, well, maybe not every group of friends, but most people that play, like, they have a group of 3 or 4 people that they are with every single night. You become greater than the sum of your parts. Like
That makes sense.
You definitely, like, I mean, I think Cam and I are both very competent FPS players, but we definitely can help each other play, maybe not better, but we can have more success playing together than each of us by ourselves. And like you were talking about a minute ago with having a role in your team, I think that that kind of goes along with the natural hierarchy of your group of friends. It's like when we would play Call of Duty back in my freshman year of college, I was still one of the not so great players, and so I was always the one who had to run the flag or plant the bomb or whatever, and my friends would be the ones getting all the kills. And looking back at it now,
Still a valuable role.
I know, looking back at it now, I feel like, okay, maybe I was the reason we were winning more games. But in that moment, I still definitely felt like, oh, my friends are all better than I am. They're the ones putting the numbers on the scoreboard.
But you're playing the objective.
Well, I'm playing the objective because if I try to get kills, then my friends are just like, why aren't you playing the bomb? Why aren't you
But you were
capturing
playing to win, which, I mean, goes back to the heart of this discussion, is what makes a game replayable. And difficulty, I'm going to say it does that. Like, the skill level of some of these games is getting crazy. Like, Luke, I know you play League, so I heard that's probably the hardest game in the world to be good at.
It is definitely up there. It is a really difficult game. And like the big thing that I like about League of Legends is it's got like a really high skill floor. So like if you're not familiar with the terminology, skill floor is just like what it takes to be able to play the game. And games with like low skill floors would be like, Pokemon or Super Smash, something that you can just pick up and you can start playing it and you can like have a good time. League of Legends, you pick it up and you're not having a good time until you've played like 20 games, and then you're like, oh, I kind of understand like the basics of how to play it. And as high as the skill floor is, the ceiling is even higher. And what I like about it is it's super competitive. Like it does take a lot. You have to have knowledge of each champion. You have to have knowledge of macro gameplay. It's really strategic. It's like when you get into watching pros and stuff like that, it's like watching a game of chess. But then each piece has to have mechanical play as well. So on top of being able to play the game right and make the right decisions, you also have to play it perfectly and not mess up like little aspects of the game. So it gets really intense. And I think that's what really drew me to it, is that like I've put in probably thousands of hours and I'm not top tier at it. Like I'm a good player, but I'm like top 5%. I'm not even top 1%, and I'm not used to that in most video games that I've played. When I put in that much time.
That's kind of why I'm being a little bitch about playing it. I know I'm gonna have to put in so many hours just to even understand it. So
No, it
I'll
is.
get around to it one day. I got a couple friends of mine that are willing to teach me.
Oh, I'll definitely show you what's up too. I've got some stuff on that. That
Well,
it
to
is
be fair,
it is a
with
fun game.
League, the player base is much bigger than most other games.
Oh,
So you
it's
saying so
current.
top 5% does mean a little bit more simply because there are more people to fill out the total population of the game. But I still understand what you're saying.
But I mean, like in my mentality, like a third of the players can barely even control the game. Like they can't even they don't even get how it works. And then another third are basically like the people at school we were talking about. So I'm like,
Are there any people you think who are just spectators? They don't even play the game just
there,
because of its popularity?
yeah, there are those people. I think most of those people that are like that have at least put in enough time to understand the basics of the game. Because if you, it's each video game I'd say is kind of like a language in itself, and some are like more
Yeah.
complex than another. And if you don't understand if you're watching a game you don't know, it's just like listening to someone speak a foreign language. It doesn't mean anything to you.
Yeah, we need to take a step back and just appreciate that. Who would have thought in the last 10 years that it would be that big? It's
It's
crazy.
insane.
The earliest I remember League of Legends was in 2010. One of my high school buddies, I went to visit him when he was at college, and he was sitting in his dorm room playing League of Legends. And at that point, I'd never seen the game before, and I had no clue what it was. And I was just like, oh, okay, like that's another game.
Yeah. One of
And
my friends, same story here. My roommate played the game 2010, and he made me play a couple games of it. I'm on a trackpad trying to maneuver, which now
That's not going to
looking
work.
back, it doesn't work at all. And they didn't even tell me you need a mouse, so I don't know. Like,
That used to be an accomplishment in RuneScape. If you PK on a laptop, you can call yourself a master.
I
sorry
remember
about
going to I remember going to a MLG event in 2011, and one of the games that they had showcased there was a StarCraft 2 tournament, and I was just kind of wandering through the open bracket area where they have all the stations set up for people to play. Not the pro players, but the people that were just competing for a chance to play the pros. There was a guy sitting there with a little Wacom tablet and the little stylus, and that's what he was playing with. It was the coolest thing to watch. He
Was
was
he any
actually playing.
good?
I understood StarCraft on a basic level at that point, but I could not tell you if he was any good or not.
It's actually funny. It kind of goes back to the language thing, which is, I
Yep.
think it's an analogy I've used a couple times, but I actually like it. So it's like you can kind of like hear it and understand the language, but if someone's talking fast, you have no idea what they're saying.
For
Well,
sure. For sure.
I mean, I've had that sort of thing with a couple of esports. I started watching StarCraft when StarCraft 2 came out, um, and at the peak of my enjoyment of that game, like I'd gone to MLG tournaments, I'd watched world class pros, like I'd watched Koreans
Mm-hmm.
sit 20 feet up in front of me on the stage
These
playing
damn
this game.
Koreans.
Yeah, right. Actually, I have a photo of the guy who won that tournament. I think his name was Bomber, if I remember correctly, for Startail. Total nerd freak out there. But anyway, um, no, but like I could follow what was going on.
Yeah.
I understood. But if you put me in that situation and they said, go play, I could say, oh, I need to do this, but there's no way I could make those decisions
Mm-hmm.
under pressure in the moment. There's not a chance in hell
Yeah.
that would ever happen. And I think that's kind of like with traditional sports. People watch them and they're like, oh, I could do that. It's like, yeah, you could, but could you do it in the midst of the moment
Right.
with 10 other people on the floor with you? Like, no, you couldn't.
With the
That's not how it
stylus.
works.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
With the deflated ball. Oh. Actually, going to the spectator sport, that is kind of why I like League, because you can watch it from an overhead perspective where you can still get a pretty good idea of what's going on, and you can hop to whatever is important happening in the game. While in a lot of first person shooters, it's harder to have it spectator because you can only get one person's point of view at a time, which there is, each person has something important going on, but I think it's harder to capture.
Yeah.
For a traditional spectator view, yeah. If you, I know with Counter-Strike, you can actually watch a lot of pro tournaments. You can actually go into the spectator mode, like in the game server.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're watching a StarCraft tournament, you see up in the right top corner of the screen, it'll say like viewers or something. It'll have a number. That's not Twitch viewers. That's people who are logged into the game server, and they can jump between people as if they were, watching the game that they were playing in.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So that's a really cool thing, but that's another level of language that most people don't want to, like, they just prefer to watch the caster and
because they're fluent. You don't need.
Yeah.
They're translators.
That's why we have casters.
I was gonna say they're a
to make
translator. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
They bridge that gap.
Liaison.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna say, back to what you were saying, Cammy, about like, dang, did you ever think it would get this big? Like that. I remember being younger and talking to people, and it's like, no, people are becoming professional gamers. They're putting a lot into it. Like, it was always the joke when you were younger. And I remember specifically a Far Side Gallery comic. I don't know if you guys ever read the Far Side.
Of course.
Yeah. So I didn't understand probably about half of them when I was younger, at least. And like, there was one, it's like, it was titled Hopeful Parents, and they're sitting there like holding each other, watching their kid playing Super Nintendo. And it's like, and then there's like a little thought bubble, and it's like a newspaper with like wanted ads. It's like, can you save the princess $50,000 a year plus benefits, and like stuff like that, like just joking, like, oh, like you could ever make a living playing video games. Like, just,
I'm so sad I didn't like go down that path and start taking video games seriously when I was in high school like I should have. But anyway, things turned out fine regardless. But I was at the right age to, do something about that, because that's when they got huge.
It's
right when I became an adult.
Yeah.
I think most people who like that first, if we're not talking about the Korean StarCraft scene or anything like that, but if you're looking at like in America, the first wave of players that were like pros, like Halo pros, and then a couple years later with Call of Duty, whatever, most of those people were not, I don't think they went in with the mindset of, oh, I want to be a professional player.
Oh, no, not at all.
It was just, I love playing this game and I happen to be really, really good at it. And you just sort of like, hey, Mom, there's a tournament coming up. Can we go to that? And then, you have to convince your parents to like buy you a plane ticket to fly across the country or whatever. But I don't think very many people go into a game with the mindset of, I'm going to be a professional player and this is going to be my life. Because at that point, it's not fun. If you start with that mindset, you're depriving yourself of any enjoyment.
You're absolutely right. But I mean, I enjoyed video games in high school, but I also enjoyed my sports. I'm just like saying, had I not done sports and instead invested all that effort into video games, that might have been pretty cool. And it's pretty hard to, injure your hand. I mean, I know you can get tendonitis, but a lot more difficult.
And that's something I've heard from a lot of like pro players, not like that I've met personally, but just like from watching them play or interviews or whatever. The professional aspect takes away the enjoyment of it, because it goes from like playing a game that you love to like grinding a game and specific parts of it. It's work, and work is work, however you look at it. Oh, here.
Not to mention, everyone wants to kick you out of the throne or kick you off the throne, so you got to keep progressively putting in the hours, otherwise you're gonna lose all that you worked for.
All right, give me 1 minute. I gotta take a leak. I've been drinking so much coffee.
Understandable.
1 minute break. Be right back. Oh, all right, I'm back. Freshened up.
That's why I'm positive that Half-Life 3 is coming out.
Whoa. Jumping right into Half-Life 3 conversation.
I just wanted to make you think you were missing a good conversation. No, we're just being quiet.
I was like, dang, I really missed out on something.
No.
So
you didn't miss anything.
Whoa, turn into a robot there, Vox.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
All right, let's see.
Mutes Mike. Get off the Netflix.
So, there's a couple more things I wanted to cover. I still have like at least about 10 more minutes to get on this.
Fair enough.
Shadowrun. That is a game I never played. Tell me a little bit about that.
It's pretty much going to be the same things we said about Halo and COD, just good memories with friends. But one of the coolest things is you could teleport through the map to like other sides of the map, and that was very fun for a. It was more of a third-person shooter in some points, but yeah, fun stuff.
It was. It was different. It was different than the other games that were popular at the time, which I think was why it kind of stood out. It was round-based gameplay, more like Counter-Strike was. You have to buy your stuff every round. If you die, you have to repurchase your weapon. But
it was like Counter-Strike and Dungeons and Dragons had a baby, and that's what it is.
Sounds glorious.
I mean, it was a fantastic game. I didn't know about it when it came out, but like in 2009, my friends were playing it, and I was just like, "What is this?" And they're just like, "Oh, this is called Shadowrun." And then, okay, I'll be right back. Drive down to GameStop. How much is Shadowrun? Yeah, $5. It's a terrible game. Nobody wants it. All right, thank you. Like,
you take the game off the shelf, and they're like, "Here's $5."
The crazy thing is that
Reverse
the new copies of that game, obviously, it's still sold for like $30, $35 because they can't mark down new copies. But a used one was, that was like, mow the lawn, go buy a Shadowrun.
Call of Duty remastered? No, there needs to be a Shadowrun remastered. I'd play the hell out of it. I'd market the hell out of it on the channel. Try to create a little community of people going. That'd be fun.
Shadowrun's biggest. Then again, I'm just going to clarify for the record. I was never good at Shadowrun.
I was garbage too, but it was fun.
Never any good at it. But, it was just like, how do I even describe this? Shadowrun was a failure commercially because it was a multiplayer only game.
It lived in the shadow.
Yes.
Call of Duty.
Gosh.
That was one of the greatest intro cutscenes ever. Go watch the title cutscene. So good.
Better than Overwatch. Because that's like some Pixar level stuff.
I would say if you're taking into account the amount of production value for Shadowrun, I would say it's better than Overwatch.
Okay, so it's like the Napoleon Dynamite of video games. Got you.
I did not say that.
That's a good comparison.
But no, like Shadowrun had so many good ideas, and it was still a first-person shooter that you had to be aware, you had to be intelligent, and you had to accept that if somebody's better than you, there are concrete ways and reasons why they are better than you, and it's not just luck-based. So
cough, RuneScape.
And God, I mean, like, people have been criticized in the past or developers have been criticized in the past for making games that are too difficult to learn. But I think Shadowrun kind of hit it right where it needed to, where it was not too difficult to learn. It's just that a lot of people didn't want to put the time in to learn it. And so therefore, like I said, because it had no single player campaign, it just wasn't super.
Such a disappointment. I feel like it's on a top 10 countdown somewhere for games that should have been something great.
It also committed the cardinal sin of using the name of of a previously popular franchise and doing something different with it. Because Shadowrun was a tabletop role-playing game it had like a Super Nintendo or Dreamcast version that was like an RPG, and so I think that also irritated a lot of people who would have maybe bought it on name brand recognition, was the fact that suddenly it's this first-person shooter, and that's not what Shadowrun had been up to that point. So I think that was another one of its problems. But I mean, its ideas are still very much relevant in multiplayer gaming today. most common one I've talked about before on my channel is the blink ability in Destiny. That's Shadowrun's teleport. You just can't go through walls. Like that's literally what the teleport ability is. You move forward like 10 feet in the direction you're moving.
Through anything.
That's pretty cool.
And imagine blink shotgun with the ability to go through walls. Oh, God.
Just phase through a wall and blast someone. That'd be pretty tilting.
Phase back out, yeah. But I mean, that's the thing. Like, going back to what we talked about earlier, when you talk about like, oh, that's but no, it's not overpowered. Everything has a purpose. Everything has some way of countering it.
Tree of life.
There's an ability in Shadowrun that it uses magic. Like, you have a magic meter based on your race, and it refills over time, again at varying rates depending on what race you're playing as. And there's an ability called Smoke, where you enter a third-person state of view, and you're kind of an ethereal being at that point. It kind of looks like you're invisible in Destiny. And
I shit you not, Titanfall 2 has a similar ability. I was watching a video on that, but continue.
Was it a Syphax video?
Yes, it might have been.
Of course it was.
YouTube.com/Liquid Syphax. I don't know if that's his channel.
I think it's TCG Syphax now. But anyway, we're not here to shout out Mike, so go check out his channel. No, but in Shadowrun, like, you had Smoke ability, and it cost 1 pip of magic, I think, every couple of seconds. So you could stay in smoke for a very long period of time, and you were immune to damage at that point. You didn't take fall damage, you didn't take damage from bullets or grenades or anything like that. And so you're just thinking, like, why is that in the game? Well, there's another ability that you could buy called Gust. And it basically was like force push.
Wonder what that does.
If you gusted somebody in smoke, it killed them instantly.
Oh, dang.
Dead, gone. And so,
there's the counterplay.
There's a counter to, if somebody's being obnoxious with smoke, just buy the gust ability. Like,
that's smart.
That's what so many developers fail to realize today. They're so worried about a community's perception of, is this balanced, is this unbalanced, that they don't think about, okay, some things are going to be better than others. Not everything is going to be on an equal footing, because the more variables your game has, it becomes basically impossible.
Yeah, because as you adjust one thing, another thing creeps too much.
You can't keep everything on an equal, so to speak, playing field when you have so many variables. And then, of course, like I said, you have the Reddit community. Oh my God, this is broken. Oh my God, that's overpowered.
I mean, it's just the way we live in the information age. As soon as someone finds something good, that's all you see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no one thinks to look for a counter immediately.
That's the thing. You just have some YouTuber who has 300,000 subscribers makes a video saying, oh, this is the best thing ever. And then you have, a lot of the community just like, oh my God, that's the best thing ever. He said it's the best thing ever. I better use the best thing ever.
Get some jerk who has like a one-shot hand cannon video and then like just ruins it for everyone.
Right.
God, who would make that?
Yeah, Cammy Cox Gaming.
Oh, actually, I wanted to say, I mean, this is probably a whole conversation in itself, but I feel like gamers themselves have kind of ruined video games. Not like ruined it, but like,
no, I know where you're going with this.
I agree with you 100%. I liked it back in the day where if you were a gamer, you played the game because you had fun and you accepted what the game was.
And now it's like it has to be competitive. And competitiveness also kind of ruins games because it takes away playing for fun and like the enjoyment that you got out of it. And then it's like, that's why a lot of people who have picked up League, a lot of people have fallen off because they're like, man, I just don't have fun playing the game. It's not a fun game. It's like, well, because when you play it, you have to be the best. Or if you're not winning, you're not having a good time. And it's like one of those mentalities where like the competitiveness kind of killed the game. Or like in people wanting it to be so balanced, it's like, so it's just not as, it just takes away some of the fun.
Well, there's a difference between having a game that's competitive and having a game that's esport material.
That is
any multiplayer game, if you put time into it to learn how to become a good player, you are playing it competitively. You were playing it to win. You were using the best things available to you to be better than other players. But that doesn't mean that it's a freaking esport.
True. And something that League of Legends has a problem with is balance, because the developers have to balance it to the pro level. Like if something's that pros can exploit is overpowered, they have to tone it down. While when they tone it down up there, a lot of the times it makes it almost unusable for the average player, because it's like, oh, this champion has such a high skill cap, but they've mastered it, and once it's mastered, it's broken. But until that point of like mastery, it's basically like it's really difficult to play. But then so their way of balancing it for the esports level kind of just like makes it garbage tier for almost the rest of the player base.
No, that's definitely true with a lot of games, and that has to be your core. Like that's your core philosophy. Are you making this game for the people who are the best at it, or are you making it for the people who make up your monetary base? And so many companies, it didn't used to be, I don't think it didn't used to be quite as big of a struggle, because companies always say, well, we're just making it for fun, and if you want to make it competitive, then you guys can do that, whatever. And they might make changes or patch things based on what people are complaining about, but it was never in the sense of what you're saying, where the top 1% of the 1% are the ones that dictate how the game evolves. And money, it used to be that people made the decision, we're going to appease our main player base because that's where the money is. And the competitive community would cry about it. They'd be like, oh, that's dumb. These people don't know what they're doing. They're ruining the game. And now it's kind of the other way around, where the competitive community, because for better or for worse, esports has become such a enormous business.
Yep.
Then now you have developers that are like, oh, we have to make our game an esport so we can make tons of revenue off of tournaments and blah 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 blah,
streaming and then everything.
And then it's like, well, that's great, but you made a game that's really not fun to play unless you're
a master.
If I had to give an example of Nerf buff, it would be the universal remote, just because of the irony in the name. It really isn't for everyone. It wasn't to begin with, and then at one point it was for everyone. Then they toned it down. Now no one uses it again.
Yep. And
I mean, that's again with the community. It's like the community whines about something, things get changed. The community then immediately fixates their whining on something else. Like the community's never going to be satisfied, and the developers are just too reactive, I think, to a lot of people's problems.
It's kind of why I hate Reddit. I love it and I hate it. It's just like, you can whine, and then if it resonates with somebody, then it just explodes.
I love Reddit for the information I can gain by reading it. I hate Reddit. I hate Reddit for the amount of garbage I have to wade through to get to that information that I want.
I mean, it's a good system that they have with just like trying to weed out like bad content, but at the same time, it just makes me realize how many whiners are on the internet.
For real. Team Nolan.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about real quick, just to kind of move in the ending direction, but like Knights of the Old Republic, that's something I had a note on. That we all played that game, yeah?
Oh, yes.
Oh, man. That for me,
10-year patch.
That was probably one of the best games I've ever played, like all around. It's when I was playing video games, and I remember I rented it from Blockbuster, RIP, and it was such Blockbuster got destroyed. But I remember going to Blockbuster every other week and like renting a game, and it was like awesome. It was so cool. And I remember getting this game and being like just in love with it right away. I was someone who actually really did enjoy a good storyline. I know a lot of my friends weren't patient enough to read the text of a game if it was going on, and I just like fell in love with the game. I've been a huge Star Wars fan my whole life. I watched through all those so many times, and have a game where in the Star Wars universe, RPG, and a great storyline behind it, which was just incredible. Like it really was an amazing storyline. and good gameplay, in-depth characters, and the not knowing what I was doing in the game made it all the more fun. Like I went through and played every little side quest I could because I thought it was crucial to the development of the game. I didn't know I
The side
didn't have
characters
to.
had a big purpose. Like, it was cool.
is that is definitely something that I know in myself I've changed over the years. When you first get a new game and you play through it, whether it's by yourself or with a friend or whatever, you do every single little thing that game has to offer. If there's a side quest, we're going to go do it. If there's a little nook and cranny over here we haven't explored, we're going to go see what's there.
Mm-hmm.
But then even if you absolutely love the game to death, like with KOTOR, if I went back and played KOTOR now, I would probably not have that same mentality of I have to do everything.
Yeah.
Because in
Yep.
my mind, I remember these things, and it's just like, okay, we're going to go over here and do the main story. Okay, we're done.
What was the
and it
name of
just-
that first planet, the city planet, where there's the upper city, the lower city, and then the under city? What was it?
I'm pretty sure it was Terrace. No.
Yeah, that's it, Terrace. I was gonna say that, but I wasn't entirely sure. I remember going through so many quests on that and being such a good guy and not taking and like giving people money to be like get my light side points up. And then spoiler alert, they destroy the whole planet. they freaking bomb it with like they just like death run it with their like star destroyers or whatever it was that they had. And I remember being devastated. But like a game that had me have that sort of emotional attachment to it, it was something else. That Knights of the Old Republic.
That's the same thing with Halo Reach, I think, for me. With the single player for that game, because if you were a fan of the Halo verse at that time, then you knew Reach was the planet that you're fleeing away from in the first game
Mm-hmm.
as the aliens destroy it. And so when you start the Reach campaign, it's like, okay, you already knew this planet's gonna burn. Like the whole planet's gonna be destroyed. But they still did a very good job of telling the story of the few days leading up to that planet getting completely glassed. And they had, for what it was, I mean, you have faceless ultra humans, the Spartans, but the characters were still interesting to the point where you could form an attachment to them, except for Kat because she was a complete bitch.
Yeah, she didn't have any time to explain.
Oh my god. And I mean, like, but that's kind of like what you just said. Like, I know as soon as I boot up the game, okay, this planet's going to be destroyed in 3 days.
Yep.
Still a fantastic story.
Mm-hmm.
Still a great experience. So,
The game I can like replay like that and actually want to explore every nook and cranny is the Dead Rising series. Just because there's so many comical things to do that I want to do them.
Dead Rising.
It's not you gain nothing from like hitting zombies with golf balls, but it's just so funny to do that if I pass by a golf club, I'm gonna pick it up.
I spent hours in that game doing absolutely nothing.
That's what I'm saying.
It was
I don't know what it is. It's just a beautiful game to kill some time in. It's just like a guilty pleasure kind of game for me.
exactly. I remember downloading it when Xbox Live first was like kind of like adding in like full games that you could get online, and that was one of them. Dead Rising 2. I think it was the second one was
Off the record.
Oh, it was so fun just being in the mall and like combining stuff and just mowing down hordes of zombies. I'd play it for like a couple hours and be like, well, I accomplished nothing but had a great time.
There goes my day.
Yeah. Oh.
It also makes going to the mall in real life just a little bit more fun. You're like, if this was a zombie invasion going down right now, I know exactly what I'd be doing.
That was actually always a thought I had in high school and like real life. I'm like, all right, zombie scenario. I'm like, zombies come busting through this door. What's my plan? I'm like, okay, bar up the door, hop out the window, throw this girl I hate in front of them. Like, let's go.
Yep. Get the Mega Man Buster.
somebody's a vengeful person.
Dude, you got to have a plan for getting out of there. If they're chowing down on this person who's, I mean, like I'm out. I'm hopping out second floor window. I've already got it. I've already got it planned out. I see the extension cord. I'm tying it around this thing. I'm lowering myself down. I hated
I have
school.
a very pertinent question for you. When you're walking around in real life, do certain items just kind of glow when you look at them? Do you sort of feel like that's something I should probably pick up?
When I'm driving the ramp trucks.
Yeah. Like, should
Okay,
I?
we're not. God, what was that? Crackdown?
Oh
I'm
my
trying-
God.
GTA, Crackdown, all of them.
Uh,
Oh. Well,
when
I'm
is Crackdown
actually
3 supposed to come out? Actually,
basically
isn't
out
that
of
like
time.
this year?
I need to wrap this up because I have to get going here. But to sum it up, there's so many things that really make video games playable, long-term playable, and like capture your attention at first and keep you engaged. And I don't know, what are the big things that we really kind of pulled out of this, do you think?
Creativity,
Yeah,
economy,
You gotta have a good time with your friends.
friends.
community, creativity, economy, uh
Don't look up how
competitiveness.
to do something online.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the learning itself. And now there's like a whole market around just being taught the game. But it's crazy how much stuff there is that it takes to make a game that you want to be able to play more than just for the average span of the game. And I don't know. Like I'm really curious what other people think on this as well. I mean, this is just our 3 points of view, which personally I love having these kind of conversations, and I hope that it sparks conversations with other people. And I'd love to do this again personally and like really get into, the other aspects of the game, talk more about how gamers themselves are kind of boxing the developers into a corner. I think that would be a cool conversation just in itself.
I
Yeah.
think that I think the publishers definitely.
Hello.
Do we lose?
Guest star Mike Syfax.
This-
Yeah, we lost him.
Y'all better get playing.
We lost you there for a second, Vox.
I thought you just like lost your train of thought, but no, you actually
Yeah.
just cut out on Skype.
Yeah,
Well, sorry about that.
he's back.
I'm back.
But yeah,
Do you
wait,
want me-
what were you saying? I just spaced 100% when I was trying to listen to what you were
What I
saying.
was trying to say was I think that publishers have contributed to the lack of replayability because they're trying to sell you a sequel the second that a game releases. It's like as soon as the first one comes out, 2 years later, there's going to be another one. We're already working on it.
Exactly. And I think Call of Duty is a prime example of people and publishers going hand in hand to make something that neither of them want to make.
Yeah.
People liked
See,
the
we're already
basic.
starting this next podcast.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna have to.
Yeah,
I'll end it there. Bam. Cammy, Vox, thank you so much for joining me on this. This was actually really awesome getting to talk about all this stuff. I really appreciate.
I didn't
you
even
guys.
get to talk about the keyboard controller for Phantasy Star, but that's for another time.
All right.
Just
well,
imagine a GameCube controller like cut in half, and then you put a keyboard there.
I remember seeing ads for that.
I'm gonna
Okay,
have to
now
look
you
that
can
up.
end it. Now
I'm
that
gonna have to
I
look that
brought,
up.
now that I mentioned it.
you got to bring it up. Okay,
That's our cliffhanger.
yeah. Come back next time to hear about keyboard controllers and hear us rant about how gamers suck because we box people into corners. Seriously, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I've been wanting to make this for a while, and I really appreciate hearing your guys' thoughts and being able to kind of like go through each thing with you guys. It's really cool to hear different points of view, or even have my own point of view reverberated, so I can hear it from another perspective that's actually pretty similar as well. But thank you guys so much for joining me, and to whoever's watching, I hope you guys enjoy this, and you guys take it easy. Peace out.